Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to our talk on the women's marches in Belarus, which I think everyone would agree is a really fascinating development of events that's going on right now. We have our guest presenter today, Alena Aharelysheva. She's a gender studies researcher and activist from Belarus.
Hello.
Hi, welcome, Alena. I'm Emily Thompson. I'm the communications officer with the Prague Civil Society Center, and I'm pleased to welcome our co-hosts, the Czech Women's Lobby, represented here by their director, Hanna Stelzerova, and their chairwoman, Marta Smolíková. So welcome, ladies.
Hello.
So Alena is, I think, really a perfect source to speak on the developments in women's activism in Belarus this year, because she's not only a scholar and researcher in gender studies, she's a lecturer at the European College of Liberal Arts in Belarus. She holds a master's degree in sociology with a specialization in gender studies, but she's also an activist, and she's been participating in these marches. So I think she'll be able to really give us not only the street view and color of events on the ground, but also to kind of zoom out and give us the overview of the context to understand really what's going on. Just a reminder, we want to hear from our audience as well. So anyone who has any questions during the presentation, please just send them over Facebook in the discussion under the event, or also on YouTube in the comments. We'll be checking both. So yeah, just to quickly frame why we're having this talk before I turn it over to Alena. I think everyone who's watching has been following these events this year. It's been a really tumultuous year for Belarus, but also very eventful for women in the country, to say the very least. They've come to some of the most prominent roles in the opposition politics, opposition to President Lukashenka, and also the way that women's activism has come to really define the peaceful nature of the opposition, which I really think is fascinating, and I look forward to learning more about. So over to you, Alena.
Okay, I will share my screen. So here is. So let's start. Thank you everybody for your huge interest in this event. Yes, my name is Alena Aharelysheva. First of all, I want to point out that I will speak about the highlights and backgrounds of Belarusian women protest movement in Belarus, which is doing right now. But first of all, some of my cases and maybe messages you might find controversial. But I will ask you to try understand them instead of criticize or maybe judge. So let's start. Here you can see something like the timeline of the events which going on one by another on the June and during the June and July we have appearance of the Belarusian symbols of protest movement, the female symbols like Eva painting or the figure of Tsikhanouskaya. After then we came with role models like Tsipkala, Kolesnikova and Tsikhanouskaya. And after these female strong role models, as a reaction to police brutality, after the first day of election, the first female marches and human chain will happen. First of all, as a reaction of, again, police brutality. And during the first marches, that was, let's say, quite safe to participate to those events. But already in September, police start to beat and arrest women during those events. And as a result, now the whole September, that was a situation when that was more safe to participate the common marches than the female marches, because the female marches, police became yourself even more violently. And now we are having the situation when the different kind of even more vulnerable group than women are create their own marches just to show that they want to stop violence and they're against the Lukashenko regime. I mean, violent groups like old ladies, pregnant women, and even the mothers. And also important to point out that the political active women usually pay the high price for their political activities. For example, regime use the pressure on women activists through the threats of removal of their children, and also protesters experience sexual and physical violence in a prison. So let's go deeper to those events. Coming back to the June and July, here you can see the picture of Eva. That's the most expensive painting in Belarus, and also it's part of Belgazprom Bank collection, what were confiscated during the Babarika case. And as a result, the art community created the information campaign called Evolution, like revolution. And the main idea of this event was the Eva, that's a girl which suffer from violence. And we as a Belarusian people has to protect Eva from the regime. And basically after one month, we see the Tsikhanouskaya, that's wife of a political activist, Sergei Tsikhanouskaya, who registered as a candidate of president because her husband, Sergei Tsikhanouskaya, were in prison those moments. Again, on the left side, you can see how the Tsikhanouskaya participated in her first event, like a cartoon figure, not even the living woman, because those time everybody understand that Tsikhanouskaya only the technical candidate, the most important figure, this is Sergei Tsikhanouskaya. And those time that was an idea, and we have to protect this woman, and lots of ideas connected with domestic violence of male abuser. And it's very important to point out that those time a woman wasn't identified as an active figure of protest events, only like a symbol who have to who needs to be protected. But the situation is dramatically changed in the middle of July when the joint trio of Kolesnikova, Tsipkala, and Tsikhanouskaya appeared. So that was a situation when Tsipkala became forced to move from the country. Again, the Sergei Tsikhanouskaya and Babarika went to a jail. So 3 women representatives of those men became leaders of Belarusian protesters. And what is the most important, they show another way how politicians have to look like. Instead of very strong leader, you see the Lukashenko here and the Cherichin. It's another political candidate. During those events, decoration, like very beautiful and young one, decoration around this strong leader who know what he needs to do, he know how to solve your problem. Instead of this kind of female way of political culture, let's say like this woman speak very loudly about their weaknesses, about how they suffer from the regime. And those main idea was that we can only help ourselves. So we, like everybody can be a hero, even if you have your vulnerability and weaknesses. Your weaknesses can be your power. And we together as Belarusian people has to understand what we should do. And this idea of self-responsibility, even though you have, you are not kind of strong enough and you are not a strong man, was very useful in their companies. And it means that instead of mainly men participated in their meetings, the family come to their meetings. So that was, I guess, for the first time in Belarusian history when families, and I mean the mothers and with the small kids, decided to be involved in political events. And speaking about, of course, those role models are influenced a lot in developing political female activity in Belarus, but it working in both directions. I mean, the Tsikhanouskaya also mentioned that she inspired a lot of Belarusian women, and these processes of development of political leaders and the grassroots and female grassroots coming together and influenced and inspired each other. So next we are moving to August, when after the elections the police use extreme level of violence towards two protesters. So they use guns and weapons. And as a reaction for those events, women came to the streets. First of all, they created a human chains everywhere in Belarus. So that were like in different places, the small villages, and in Minsk, in different places, you can see the woman with the flowers, they are staying around near the streets. And speaking about why the woman decided to go, for the main idea that they want to show themselves and they want to show that they want to stop violence. And but different women came to the protest with different messages. You can see here the picture with poster like house, children, and draniki, and another very huge number of women with a poster like freedom, equality, and sisterhood. Again, speaking about was it a feminist movement or not, since the feminists participated in these marches, we can see that those marches are feminist. But we can see that only a feminist woman participated in this event, because there are like different kind of women. What is like the most important, that they decided for themselves whether they want to go or not. Going deeper about the kind of special female behavior, I mean, they identified it as a kind of special female behavior during those marches. That's maybe you can see this like level of style of Belarusian protesters. For example, in the corner, you can see the real picture from Belarusian march, but as a joke, this walk, that wasn't walk picture, but somebody just put it this walk just to point out that any picture from the protest can be real picture in a walk journal. And they use this appearance and the style also like the way how they can empower themselves and how they can show how like that they're not afraid and they're not ready to give up. We are going to the streets to celebrate our freedom and our political rights. Another interesting case with Maria Kolesnikova, when she came to the jail, she asked to bring her famous red lipstick and the bright clothes, because she is not ready to give up. She wants to be bright even in prison. And that's also about not kind of beauty in a way of objectivization. That's like how you can use the beauty as a way to empower yourself. Another variant, how women about female empowerment and different kind of behavior towards to police. Some of women decided to hug them, even trying to kiss them or bring them to flowers, kind of trying to show their humanity. Another variant to behave very aggressively, for example, trying to take their mask off to see their faces, or so I mean, that's completely different strategies. But again, what is the most important for me here, that women decided for their own how they want to behave. Another, the picture at the center with different kind of lines. That's a kind of joke which happened from the 1st March when women don't have the exact road where they want to go. And that is why the joke appeared about like women, you know, they never know where they want to go. But at the end, that was actually the successful strategy, because police can't stop them because they don't know where they want to go. So they were kind of confusing how to behave with this woman. Another strategy, they shot very deeply, like this, you know, the special woman voice. And just because they was also so unusual strategy, police can't communicate with each other to coordinate their activity, because they shout and they were very nervous, but they can beat women for those time, again, because they, like, for them, the woman was still identified as some weak person. Another very important highlights, that every woman, not even only Tsykala, Tsikhanouskaya, and Kolesnikova, some political leaders can be a role model. And here we can see the girl with a cigarette. So that was just real pictures from the protest. And the girl explained that she just started to smoke and realized that the police want to arrest her. So she just want to finish the cigarette, because you never know why you can have the next one. And she immediately became a labor of bravery of Belarusian woman. People put her in stickers, they put murals about her, and also the picture in the center, that's kind of street of Maria Kolesnikova. That's another point of Belarusian revolution, that the development of neighborhoods. So people, sometimes they decided to rename the streets for themselves if they see some heroes are women. For example, kind of mother of Belarusian revolution, I forget the name, Nina Baginskaya here. That's a real picture from Italian Vogue. But what is interesting about Nina Baginskaya, she's going to the protest for 20 years, but she was extraordinarily famous just nowadays, because the context about this woman role models are embracing, and she was just up to this context. So Belarusian protest. So when woman became an active, when woman recognized as a political power and the political subject, again, the pictures, how the artist identified woman completely different. So instead of object, instead of something what you have to care about, woman became a hero, because the woman in the streets became a heroes. But as a result, police also recognized them as a political subject, and became example. Here in the corner you have the real picture of the how the police try, like, first of all they bring girls together, and after that they start to beat them. And a result for this action in those places that appeared a word that women were beaten here. These words are deleted immediately, but they appeared again, and again. So that's kind of the urbanistic war, let's say like this. So trying to summarize my message as a whole for these 3 months. We will have more than 15 female marches and human chains with more than 20,000 participants. But unfortunately, more than 1,000 women were detained during those time. Some of them, activists of gender and feminism organizations, because the regime trying to find organizers. For now, they unsuccessfully trying to find organizers. But what is the most important is an invisible job of taking care about loved ones, because this 100 more than 20, that's just 11% from the whole number of arrest people. So it means that more than 9,000 people, I mean males, were arrested during those time. And usually the woman, the relatives who is taking care about this process. I mean, the women are responsible for finding lawyers, to finding resources like physical and psychological one, to spread information during the mass media. And it's those process needs usually a lot of money and psychological and different kind of support, and it's all about women. Like what we're having right now, what I mentioned already, something like power of vulnerability. The logic here is that if police are beat women right now, so let's go deeper with another vulnerable group of women. So like, you are ready to beat women, but how about old ladies? How about marches of pregnant women? How about marches of mothers of children with disabilities? Are you ready to beat them? For now, police are trying to, sometimes they arrest those women, but in a more kind of polite way than just ordinary protesters. But again, we will see what's going on in the future. For now, the most important that Belarusian people, women, mothers, and different kind of groups, they're not ready to give up, and they're ready to continue their fight for their freedom. So that's all what I wanted to say you. Here you can see the woman who is in prison right now for their political positions. Some of them, my colleagues from the FEM group of coordination committee. So they came for the prison just because they're trying for help other women. And to another pictures, you see the Amnesty mural in Belarus, in Minsk. So the idea was that we have a prospect of peace, like prospect mural, but the local community here decided to change it. So they wrote different name in Polish and in Czech, and also you see some kind of Czech yes, quote here as well. So thank you for your attention. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Alena, for your presentation. So before we start with the questions, I think some questions will be coming in over Facebook from our listeners over the next few minutes, but I'd like to pass it over to our co-hosts first, to the Czech Women's Lobby, to start us off with a few questions. So Marta, if you're with us, could you just maybe give us an introduction to your organization and then get us started with some questions for Alena?
Yeah, hello everybody. So I am glad to be here with Alena Aharelysheva. Sorry.
That's okay.
So it's a difficult name for me. So to listen your experience, opinions, and testimony about women's activities and protests in Minsk and Belarus. So I represent here the Czech Women's Lobby. We are a network of 37 pro-women's organizations which defends women's rights in the Czech Republic. So it means that we promote equality between women and men. We are strengthening the position of disadvantaged group of women, and we draw the attention to women's problems and offer their solutions. So generally, we would like to help that women can live better in our society, but I can say our situation is completely different from yours. So I appreciate very much that we have here the opportunity to express the solidarity of Czech women lobby, and also my really deep admiration for your courage and courage of all Belarusian women. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to say that I have a news that our Czech commissioner in European Union, Vera Jourova, initiated a campaign for Belarus and Belarusian women, which will be launched today at 8:00 p.m. And will be great if everybody who listen and who are today with us can retweet this news and can share this news with other people. So look on your social net, and on Twitter will be announced at 8:00 p.m. So this is what I would like to say, and thank you, Alena, that you came to us really to say what's going on in Belarus, because we have the news from the TV and our newspapers, but definitely it's much more better to hear really some concrete person with her experience, with her opinions, and this. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marta. Hanna, would you like to go?
Yes, I also like to thank you for this comment about the situation in Belarus, and I have a question. You were speaking about also how women suffer under the regime in Belarus, and I would like to start with a question. What do you think that is the position in society of women, and women as a leaders, or maybe even their political power, if there or was there political power for women? Is there a place in the political leadership for women right now in Belarus?
I can say that it's hard to predict right now, because now we have this change in protest. So before the August event, I may see that female political leaders in Belarus, because we had the situation when, according to statistics, if you see the number of women in parliament or the number of women is the state organization, this percentage was even higher than the median percentage in Europe. But that wasn't because the women are that wasn't because we have a gender equality in Belarus. That because all of this state organization is not working. So we have just kind of fake elections, and basically the president can point out whatever he wants. And if those people, I mean, those politicians are not working as representatives of people's opinion, it doesn't matter who is it, either a female or male candidate. But again, we were in a higher position during the gender indexes, just because according to statistics, everything is great. Another at the same time, speaking about the female opposition leaders, and those leaders are reported that it's so hard to be a female leader in Belarus, because we still has this idea of huge patriarchy culture, when we as a nation, we as a poor Belarusian people need a strong man who have to solve all of our problems. But what I mentioned in my presentation, that now the situation has been changed. At the beginning, nobody believed in Tsikhanouskaya, and that was one of the quote from a political observer was like, it's better to choose a chair than Lukashenka. So Tsikhanouskaya had kind of a chair, because it doesn't matter, even the housekeeper can be a president. But now we see the development of Tsikhanouskaya image, and the heroism of Maria Kolesnikova and heroism as in Belarusian woman. And I think now it's time to I don't know, don't give up and don't lose the opportunity to identify yourself as a political leader. And now, for example, why I'm member of a female group of coordination committee, that's kind of not say the institution, that's the people who trying to help democracy power in Belarus. We trying to stay in a gender equality position in those in those institutions, and we're trying to point out that you see the female has a power, so that means that we are ready to be leaders in Belarus. And yes, we will see what's happened, but I'm quite optimistic about this.
Okay, thank you. We have actually one question starting to come in from Facebook. So they ask, are the women's only marches, are they going on only in Minsk, in the capital, or are they also happening in other cities in other parts of the country?
That's hard to calculate where exactly they were marches, but like in average about 20-30 cities and villages where woman is marching. And again, because they don't coordinate it by one organization or one leaders, it's hard to collect all of the information about this, because sometimes you just have to go through some road somewhere in the middle of Belarus and see one girl with a flower just near the road. And that's also the march, and like, that's incredible. And that is why, I mean, that's hard to calculate all of the marches, but the first march was in Minsk, but that was a huge inspiration for women everywhere in the country.
And so we have a question from some YouTube. I'll check those in just a second. So I had a question when I was listening to you, Alena. It seemed like what you were saying was that women have been very active in politics and opposition politics and in activism for a long time, but maybe didn't take these leadership roles because it's still, you know, quite a patriarchal society. Do you think it was kind of like a happy accident that women came to the fore this year because it was, you know, kind of a vote against Lukashenka rather than a vote for someone? Or had this kind of been building over time, that women were becoming more prominent in opposition politics?
No, I mean, I can say yes for both of your variants, because yes, we were prepared to take the responsibility and to go to the street, because again, coming back to the Soviet history, when a woman wasn't recognized as a weak person, that was kind of, and now also all of these narratives are open again about the heroism of women during the Second World War, and so that kind of that was somewhere behind our like female history in Belarus, but also I can't don't mention the political activities which are going on right now. I mean, the situation when the regime behaved extremely violently towards the protesters, and most of the hundreds of most of the male protesters were in prison, and as an answer for this, women came to the street. So that was not the first act, that was only the answer for this, but still now the hundreds of women has this experience of self-realization let's say like this, and developing of their political borders.
Okay, thanks. And we have a couple of more questions coming through on YouTube, but also please, Hannah and Marta, jump in at any point. So they ask, are gender roles in Belarus different or more prevalent than in other European countries? And what effect does it have on the impact of the women's protest movement?
Yeah, again, I think it's different because again, we have even the gender plan in Belarus, and looking for gender indexes, Belarus in higher position, but just because we have lots of great staff from the Soviet area. I mean, the high level of educated women. In some professions, we have we don't have a discrimination, whether professional discrimination, but we still have a gender pay gap. We still have a kind of cases of sexual harassment, and those in the huge. We still don't have a law against the domestic violence, and those problems didn't identified as a problems in Belarus at all. And that still, especially from the president, sometimes they got a message like everything is okay with gender question in Belarus. We don't need to do nothing because like everything is right. But that's not like this. And again, now that's I think it's if we're speaking about the optimistic scenario, the Belarusian society understand the woman question is important, and after that, that will be easier to work with the gender issues because we already have this huge backgrounds. But it's optimistic scenario. From the pessimistic scenario, that maybe like when we win the revolution, everybody will be tired to continue their work, and that's maybe the idea will came that okay, we solved the gender question because we win the revolution, and now we can return to our traditional patriarchy culture, and that's it. Some like woman, you win in a street, so come back home, take care about kids. So I can't deny this scenario as well, but I personally and my colleagues will work for optimistic scenario.
Yeah, so if Tsikhanouskaya wins, then that's the end of sexism, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay, we have another comment and question from a viewer. He says, thank you for the presentation, and it's inspiring to hear women showing such courage in Belarus. He asked, are you able to somehow quietly, maybe, make links with women who work for the state or in the government?
Yeah, that was actually what I had an idea to speak about this, but because of time limit, work for government who work in government organization. For example, the election, this election, like every other election, were falsified by women hands, because usually the elections the election procedures coming through schools, and usually teachers are members of election committees. And again, speaking about those women, some of them, they're just afraid to, I don't know, quite passive, are not ready to do something. But again, because this incredible level of violence, we have lots of cases when people from the state organization decided to quit the job because they can't live with that anymore. But we still has kind of huge number of women who are regime supporters. That's right.
Could I ask? Yeah, thank you. I want to. You mentioned also women's organizations in Belarus. What is the position of civil society organization in Belarus, and specifically the women's organizations? Are they what is the role in the protest too, and the coordination? I mean, the support, and maybe it's linked to the scenario. What can be done? Are you organized somehow?
Yes, like for one point, that's kind of illegal to speak about, like, I organize the protest, Yes, but most of NGOs, they are, of course, they're against violence, and I think it's great that they develop very quick. They develop their work. So most of NGOs who work with domestic violence victims, they brought their activity into victims of regime. So now they consultate a woman who suffered from the regime, for example. And also lots of organizations are, they made the messages about their political positions, but also they do a lot of work, like invisible work, because it's a question how to work but not to be in a prison, right? So they do a lot. But and also some of the women activists, right, like me, so I have to move to Prague, for example, which is suffer just for their position, because now regime are trying to find the organizers of female protest. So they came to the women activists who were activists before. So you don't need to openly tell that you are organizers of the protest. For police, it's enough that you are quite active in gender issue. So some of my colleagues were arrested just for their profession, for what they do, because they're somehow connected with a gender issue or with feminist issue in Belarus. Another very interesting part, what I cannot not mention, that we have this special organizations like government NGO. So they work like in NGO, but most of people in Belarus knew that those NGOs sponsored by government. For example, this type of NGO, like Women of Society, so that's a huge NGO with lots of members, but if you go deeper, lots of these members are from state organizations, and they actually don't have a choose whether you want to be in this NGO or not. And now this NGO is quite active in pro-regime meetings, for example, or we had once ago the huge women meetings when the president came to these meetings, and that was more idea to play information war and to say the huge audience that women actually do support the regime. But again, that's not working anymore. Yeah.
Okay, and we had another question from a viewer, which is very similar to Hannah's question about the state of women's organizations overall in Belarus. But I was just kind of curious, so for the grassroots organizations, the organic women's rights groups, not the government-formed NGOs, what are some of the key issues that they focus on? We don't have to talk about like specific groups, but what are some of the main concerns of women's groups?
Again, before the August, they work in a broader spheres like support victims of domestic violence, or to develop gender equality in Belarus. And for example, me personally, I do research about different spheres of gender equality, as well as I made some educational events about issues connected with gender and feminism. But now the situation is changed. I mean, any kind of NGO right now has to choose, do you want to do something for people, or do you want to make do you want just don't look at those directions because it's not safe to do something which support the protesters, for example. So now they kind of, you have just a strict line and what you should do. And what I mentioned, yes, lots of NGOs trying to reformulate their activity in order of what happened in Belarus right now.
Okay, and you touched on feminism in your presentation, but if we continue with this kind of zoom out, I'm just curious. I mean, I guess you have to kind of guess, or you have an estimate maybe, but how likely do you think it is that the average participant in the women's marches would identify as a feminist? Is it kind of broadly accepted in Belarusian society, or among women, or among the women who are active in these circles, or how is it viewed?
Yes, I mean now, coming back to the question about the political activism in Belarus, that's a kind of sphere which is trying to refocus, and the whole society is rethinking about what is feminism actually about. So I guess, let's say at least 10 or maybe 20% of participants identify themselves as a feminism. They were gender activists before the events, and now, of course, they come into the street because they also want to show their position. So for them, that was kind of normally to go to the street. But again, before, thanks to the Russian propaganda, we had an idea that feminism, it's something which is connected with these dirty values of a lone woman, and you know, all of this Russian propaganda stuff, that feminism, it's also a dirty word. Only some stupid or alone ugly girls have to support feminism, you know. And now, because those events are the idea of rethinking also the whole society and the woman itself, thinking about what is feminism actually mean without Russian propaganda. What is actually too bad to be an active woman? Maybe not, because they every week and a couple of times in a week they have this experience of women empowerment. And it's also the question of rethinking, like, who I am, like, yes, I'm doing what I'm doing, so I have to be proud of myself. If, for example, Maria Kolesnikova, she became a national hero right now, and she identified herself as a feminist. So maybe that's not so bad to be a feminist, because I want to be like Maria Kolesnikova. And it's kind of, so I guess, yes, that will be interesting after a couple of months to make research about this and how this national interest has been changed because of local events.
Okay, we have another question about how do women connect to each other and concretely organize the marches and chains? And the second question from the same viewer is, how do you evaluate queer participation in the marches? Is there representation of queer people in the marches?
Of course, I'm proud about the second part personally, but start from the beginning. We have a Telegram channels, and that's it. So, like, if I am a citizen in Belarus and I want somehow to have some news about what's going on, not from the state channels, I just have to be part of the different kind of Telegram channels and get the news from this channel, and that's it. And after that, I can decide for myself whether I want to go to the street or not, because the channels just public the information. After that, I can go to this march alone, and I can go together with my friends, but actually nobody knows the main organizers of this event. And actually we don't need these main organizers anymore, because even if they delete the one chat, that's like the next day or after a couple of hours, the next chat will happen with the same information. So it's actually and now that doesn't matter who is organizers, because people are not going for some concrete people, they're going for themselves. That is actually great. And this organized activity that works in Belarus for those time. Another part about the queer part. Yes, there are queer people in the marches, and also that's again, we're not speaking about how queer people decided to participate in the events, because queer people are not only queer people, they also are citizens in Belarus, and this common agenda about stop violence are common for any kind of people. And so the queer people are participated marches from the beginning, but only from that was the second march when queer people and LGBT community decided to present themselves. So we were there, and now we want to show that who we are, and that like I was one of the person who made the LGBT flags. So believe me, we spent 2 full days to to create all of this flag, and that was annoying. We were crazy about this, but finally we that was actually the great when you see as a part of this different female march people from LGBTQ flags, and that's again this great sign for the society that we don't want to be against, we are together with you. And now you have to again rethink yourself. From one part you have this Russian propaganda which tells you that queer people are the evils, they have to be kind of deleted, destroyed, and so that's not a Slavic people and all of this dirty stuff. And from the other hand, you see that those people are going together with you for your common values. So you have to like, and most of people are just that brains your hand, of course, but as a result, most of people told that yes, these lesbian girls are not as bad because they are my friends right now, or this is my sisters because we are coming together against the police. So now my opinion about those people are much better because they're on my side. And that's also how the solidarity through the community is building right now.
It's great. And I just wanted to say, I also have seen in news that senior women have been doing the marches, women marches. So are you on the same idea of the future for Belarus, and how did they get into these marches, and what is their part as a senior women?
Now that's hard to predict how the future will look like. Yeah, and of course that's gonna be, I mean, when it's happened, I mean, when the regime was gone, of course there's gonna be some marches. But again, coming back to my 2 scenarios, like positive scenario, optimistic scenario, and pessimistic scenario, maybe there's gonna be some marches, but not so much people decided to join, because that's always, you know, hierarchy. What I have to do? Do I have to take care of my children? Do I have to take care of my family and work and participation to the march? And what I have to choose? Now the women choose their political activity instead of other duties, but it doesn't mean that these duties are disappear. So my question is, what we gonna do with these women duties? Do we still will identify these duties only as a woman? And also that reminds me also very interesting interview about the husbands and partners of women who came to the jail, and they spoke how they support their wives and girlfriends. But my question is that they were presented in this article like heroes, but thousands of women do the same just because it's identified as a female job. But finally, man has to do these jobs because women prefer their political activism instead of their biological duties, you know. And that's also the part of, I don't know how it's gonna be next, but that's also great that now we have this experience. Like any person in the person, they has their own personal experience, but we as a nation has this common experience as well. This like from personal to political, this link.
Okay, thanks. We have another viewer question about what happens with activists who've been detained and arrested. As you mentioned, there have been thousands detained, and in the beginning, many of them quite brutally beaten. What happens with both men and women activists when they're released from jail? Or do they go back to activism? Is it somehow they need time to recover? It's traumatic. What do they do?
every person decide for yourself what he or she should do. So some of them decided to continue their activism. Some of them, because of this anyway, has been detained. That's a huge psychological, sometimes physical trauma for them. Some of them decided not to touch any political question anymore. Some of them was forced to move from the country. For example, now in Czech Republic, we have around 40 people who go there as part of a state medical program to recover yourself. According to the statistics, more than 10,000 people from the August moved to Belarus for different kind of reasons. But what is important here, so that's hard to say that all people do the same, because again, that was this revolution that's mostly based on the idea of self-responsibility. So you have to decide for yourself whether you want to go or participate and how you want to participate. And also you have to decide for yourself what you should to continue the protest, or you have to stop, and how you have to stop, or where you have to, you need a break, and all of these ideas of self. But what is interesting, that another important idea, that nobody don't have a right to judge any other person. So again, we can see it in a Tsikhanouskaya case, when she was forced to move from the country. Next, if we compare with other political campaigns, when political leaders moved from the country, lots of people were angry because of that, you know, we are here, fight for our freedom, and you have to move. So that's like, you don't our leader anymore. But now we don't see this, because like the society understand why it's happened, and they told, yes, Sveta, we are still for you, that you do the right. And also people who now move into the country or decided for any reasons to stop their political activity, they are not judged anymore, because it was, yes, it's your decision and I respect your decision. And it's kind of, you know, quite healthy for nation to come with these cases and meetings.
Thanks. The next question is about disinformation, a broad topic, but whether it be, you know, state media propaganda, some foreign influence, or any type of kind of disinformation in the media space, are there specific ways that poses challenges for the women's protest movement in Belarus?
Yeah, but they try and again, even before August, the very famous phrase of Lukashenka, that constitution is not for women, and he meant that we as a Belarusian society don't need a woman president, because this coming back with this strong male leader, and this idea of how the leader should look like, of course the male leader, right? And the propaganda first Belarusian propaganda, and when the state channel from Russia, who is working in Belarus state channels, they try to show that women who go into the protest, they're so stupid, and so they can't understand what are you doing. So they maybe listen some agents from Prague and Poland. That's also why those countries, nobody knows, but still, that is why they go into the protest. So they can decide for themselves what they should do. And of course, that wouldn't work because the women don't want to be stupid, and stupid as a sheep, that doesn't look great, you know. That is why, again, propaganda according to women question is not working anymore.
Okay, thanks. We're coming up on our 1 hour time, but we had a lot of questions, which means it was a great discussion. I really enjoyed it. I have one last question for Alena, but before that, I just want to ask Hanna or Marta, do you have any last thoughts or questions?
I just wanted to thank you and say good luck, and I hope this is a great opportunity and for Belarus, and the positive scenario of yours will be the one that will take place. So all the best.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, also I would like to thank, and maybe I have a question. Are you optimistic for the next months or next time that women will succeed?
You mean, as a researcher, I have to be realistic, but as an activist, I must be optimistic. And now when I reflected about myself, I understand that I don't have a privilege right now to be pessimistic, because my optimism, my everyday inspiration about what is going on in Belarus give me the power to continue my job, even in Czech Republic. Let's say like this.
Thank you.
And my last question is just if you have to kind of generalize, what do you think would be the most lasting impact on the position of women, on the perception of women in positions of political power, in activism, from all of these events in 2020?
Yeah, let's see. Anyway, the women politician leaders and the female marches in Belarus, now it's part of the history. And we can't deny this huge impact to our generation and also for next generation of women. And after that, everything what's happened next depends on us. So, for example, now we I tell you that I'm part of the FEM group. We wrote a letter, for example, to Svyatlana Tsikhanouskaya to think about to have a person responsible for gender issues, because we think that now it's very important to have this person. For example, even now, the state has the committee responsible for gender issues, but it's not working. That was never working, but still. So my answer is that yes, now we have a huge background to continue, and everything is dependent on us how it will go. So if we will skip the moment, nothing will happen, and we will continue to kitchen, and that's it. If we will raise ourselves and will be brave enough to continue and to raise the question about the gender equality and the role of Belarusian women in a society, the perspective might be quite optimistic.
We hope so. We'll be supporting and we'll be watching. So thank you. Thanks so much, Alena, for your presentation. It was really great. And thank you to Hanna and Marta from the Czech Women's Lobby for joining us. And thank you to everyone who watched and sent us your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, bye.
Okay, bye.